Good morning. We're going to call this attempt two. If you missed attempt one, which you did because I didn't hit record, hit live, still have it. I'm recording from or broadcasting from the undisclosed bunker location, which is my home office. And we're doing this because we have a change of schedule, a little bit of change on the schedule today. So we're going to do something a little bit different. In fact, we were broadcasting this thing for the past couple of weeks when we've done this. We broadcast it from the Facebook page, my J. Cleveland Payne Facebook page, along with the This is the Conversation Project links. Today, we're broadcasting it to the J. Cleveland Payne YouTube page. So if you've not seen this before or have not seen any of these things before, you can find ways to hook up and get more like this. If you love it, let us know. If you don't love it, well, this page is for me. So if you don't, that kind of, I guess it shows my subscriber count as it is what people love and don't love. I am the name at the bottom, J. Cleveland Payne, and this is the Coffee and Conversation. I have coffee, and we'll have some conversations about the news stories that we posted this morning as a part of the 8 Things to Talk About newsletter for June the 8th, today, 2021. This is going to be a very quick run through. If you want to hear the full stories, I'm learning as I'm trying to branch out and expand into things I'm doing. You want to hear the full stories, you can go to the link inside the the video here and click for the newsletter. And there's a link that has you to listen to the news. We put in it's and let a robot read it, who reads much better than I can, glasses or not, and they read all 8 stories in the morning so you can get the full gist of the stories. Now, the purpose of this newsletter, as part of the conversation project, it helps out us gauge what stories are trending high enough, what stories to expect for Friday and Saturday when we produce the weekly wrap-up news podcasts. But also lets us know, gives you a chance to see what stories you can chat about as we are going back to work. This whole thing came about during pandemic time, so we weren't really at work. We weren't really chatting. Everything was online. Now you're back to actual conversations. These are 8 stories that were curated by the people using our social media feeds. This is the conversation.com via Facebook and th_conversation on Twitter. And we put them in a quick spreadsheet algorithm, get a 1 true score, and tell you what the top and bottom are. I believe there was about 33 different distinct stories we posted in the last 24, 36 hours. It fluctuates based on when we cut off time and based on how things work. These are the top 8 stories that we're going to chit-chat about very quickly. And like I said, you can go to the link in the description and read along with what's happening, and you can be a part of the madness. And you can also have the robot read it to you. That one. Have the robot read it to you in a nice, distinct way, who reads much better than I do. But this is the newsletter for today, as posted it's also posted at our website. This is conversation.com. So click for 8 Things to Talk About, and you'll see that listed in the feed as well. Right here, you see where say listen to today's news. Click that link, and it'll take you to a link to listen to the recording of this morning's. Now, the top story for the day is a story that floated around for a little while, and essentially because I have to fill stories and there's lots of things to put out there, and you're waiting for sometimes stories take a little while to actually gather moss and grow, so there's something that people talk about. This is one where I basically waited for a good headline to inspire me to put it out there, and this is a good enough headline. Texas mom arrested after posing as her 13-year-old daughter at middle school. A Texas mother wanted to prove that schools are not very safe. They need better security. So she put on some sneakers and a hoodie and went to class as her daughter. She walked the halls. She sat in classrooms. She ate lunch, and she talked to people. She talked to teachers and the principal. The only time anybody ever accosted her was during the day, where they called her out for having her phone out because she's filming this thing. And at the end of the day, when they figured it out, that's when she was popped. That's when she was arrested. Basically, the stunt may have gone a bit too far in the eyes of the school district in trying to prove that the schools needed more security. This case is pending. We'll update this as things pop up. This story got 10.52% engagement on the day yesterday or today as it went into the newsletter. Yesterday, essentially, as it went through. And this is a story that I've seen bits and pieces of for a couple days, and was basically waiting for the right time, the right headline, and spacing inside of the thing. And that's what happened today. Story number 2 today. Paul lasts the distance against Mayweather in exhibition. This is the big fight between Logan Paul, not to be confused by little brother Jake, although they're both kind of goofy white guys, so it's easy to confuse them, and Floyd Mayweather Jr., who is known mostly as pound for pound the best boxer, one of the best boxers in the world and in in all times. That debate does come up fairly often. He is not going back to full-time fighting and professional fighting at 44. He went 50-0 in that career and is pretty good with that, but he's still Money Mayweather, and he's making money in these exhibitions back and forth. And this was a big time one with Logan Paul. Now, the big deal was, would people sort of think his image was tarnished if he did not knock out Logan Paul, which he didn't do. Now, what's not in this article, which is basically Logan Paul bragging about going the distance with the big man and doing all the good stuff and the money they made. It's a bit of a conspiracy theory that popped up in other stories based on which ones you pull down, that actually Mayweather was about to knock him out, or at least knock him down, but he actually, being strong enough, being a little guy, pulled him, held him up long enough to keep the fight going. This went the full distance, 8 rounds, no scoring, so that there is no winner. And that's where this sort of conspiracy theory lies. It was all about the money, and Mayweather wanted more money by keeping Paul into the fight. Paul was, ecstatic about what he did. He came in, I'm not sure what Mayweather's weight was supposed to be, but Paul came in overweight what he was supposed to be going on, about 34 pounds over, which is what he used to kind of try to outmuscle Mayweather in the fight. So he used this extra poundage, extra weight as a weapon, which is why the weigh-ins are so important in actual fights. Paul was able to go the distance with a man who's a killer in the ring, and it is amazing. Another thing on Jake Paul and Logan Paul and Jake Paul, say the right Pauls, is they're expanding their reach beyond the sort of just the prank stuff they did that kids liked, and trying to be more larger than life personalities, which mean things that adults are into, such as boxing. So see more boxing from Logan Paul and Jake Paul, who are actually loving it, apparently. Chad Ojocinco actually got a fight in that night too. He actually survived his fight as well. Story we had at number 3 today. Oh, real quick, the engagement for the last story was 9.91%, so pretty close to 10%. Also close to 10%, 9.61%. CNN obtains audio of 2019 Giuliani call linked to Ukraine meddling allegations. Now, the whole thing behind the first impeachment of Donald Trump was the whole Ukraine thing. Was he meddling in Ukraine affairs, using his presidency to attack his political rivals? What we have now, which may or may not have helped out in that case, is proof, the smoking gun, but not that shows that Hunter Biden was doing illegal things, but showing that Rudy Giuliani was kind of roughing up the Ukrainians to trying to get his way. You can go to CNN.com and check it out if you can. Right now, there's actually a major, not quite denial of service attack. There's an attack on various sources, mostly news sites, oddly enough, that are down or can't be accessed, and was happening while we're writing the newsletter. So we had that going on. That's why the source for this is actually from newsbreak.com, not the original CNN source, because we couldn't pull it up. Same difference, though. Same thing applies. It's a headline that reached most people, or the third amount of people for the day, and it was a pretty big deal. If you want to go deeper in that one, go to our website, click the link, check out the story at Newsbreak, or search for it online. The fourth story this week, another big one, 9% on the dot. Serena Williams loses at French Open. Roger Federer withdraws. Now, the French Open had some issues last week with the withdrawal, the leaving of Naomi Osaka, who left because she said French people didn't treat her nice. Essentially, the French people and the French press weren't very good for her mental health right now. She's been dealing with some real serious issues for quite some time. Oddly enough, more or less started when she beat Serena Williams in 2018. And because Serena was the favorite, the crowd booed her out there on the scene, and something where Serena had to actually comfort her on the court to kind of get over that. She never quite got over that. While she's become more popular and a better player, the number 2 in the world, she dropped out. This is not that story. We covered a bunch of that story already. This is Serena Williams and Roger Federer, both turning 40 this year, losing and dropping out. Serena actually lost her latest match, and Federer, while he won in a marathon match, essentially said, I got to rest up for the next one. I got to be ready for Wimbledon. That's my premier one. I'm dropping out. This happens, of course, a week after Osaka drops out, and it's just all sorts of crazy going on with tennis. Now, tennis is still a very popular sport, but what we're seeing right now is the newcomers, the girl that beat Serena. I say girl because she wasn't born when Serena actually made her debut in tennis almost 20 years ago. And the people that are on up ranks back when Serena and Federer were, of course, the up and comings, pushing out the old guys. Now they're the old guys being pushed out by the up and comers. We're going to see how well that goes. Serena is not claiming to drop out anytime soon, but she hasn't won anything major in quite some time. Roger Federer is still more or less the tops, but as you see, it takes a lot longer to recover. And if he wants to recover for Wimbledon, he literally had to drop out of the French Open, drop out of one major to be ready for another. That shows that age is keeping up, and Father Time apparently intends to keep his record of being undefeated intact. Fifth story for this morning: a 6-year-old requested a birthday cake showing the beheading of Anne Boleyn, and that's exactly what she got. You have to go to this story. It's the fifth one for this morning. It came off of BuzzFeed's news. It's a little bit weird, and 6.88% engagement, because a lot of people sort of scratched their heads and looked at it. To see the picture of the cake, you have to go to the website, click the link, and of course, watch the story at BuzzFeed and see the picture of the cake. It's a pretty gruesome cake. It's a black fondant cake, so you can't eat the stuff. I learned that the hard way. That details the beheading of Anne Boleyn, and watching on is former husband, because she got married, she got divorced, should say, the king and her daughter Elizabeth I, King Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, watching, not quite in horror, but watching the thing. One of the coolest things about the conversation and the Conversation Project is these stories are out there linked to us as we're sharing them on social media, and you get to react to it. One of the best reactions I got to this one was on Twitter, was someone who, of course, you love them or hate them, kind of got twisted in the history and was like, this is a pretty inaccurate cake. I can't deal with it. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. But you have to got to hand it to the parents. This is for a 6-year-old who wanted an Anne Boleyn beheading cake because everybody else had unicorns, and unicorns are kind of, blasé. She's a big history buff. She's into a program over there in Britain about the horrible history, I think it's called. I have to read in there, where it basically takes some of the really bad parts of history, puts them to song and dance, and teaches kids about some of the crazier things that happen in history. Whether that would work for things we're dealing with right now, I'm not so sure, because we're sort of in the seriousness. But looking in the back pages of history, as long as you don't get too graphic or too minstrel. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, I don't think it's such a bad idea. Maybe it is a way to teach kids about the harder things in life that are going on right now. Just a thought. I don't have a way to put that together, but just a thought. At number 6, Alzheimer's drug from Biogen wins U.S. approval. This is a brand new drug for treating people with Alzheimer's, which is controversial because people don't think it works very well. It's been reviewed, it's been looked over, it's been out there for a while. And what it basically does is it gives people who are already suffering mild cases of Alzheimer's about a 20% chance of extending the actual benefits of regular life, and basically extending the heartache that's coming from the hard stuff, holding it back for about 20% more time. So it gives you about a 20% more time to get yourselves together before the hard things happen. It basically has very little to no effect on people who are suffering from serious bouts of Alzheimer's. So in that case, this is a Alzheimer's drug for people in the early stages, or people who may believe they may be susceptible to it. But as far as people who actually have it, this is not a cure. This is not close to a cure. People are wondering why it actually got approved. I guess we needed something good to talk about in the world of coronavirus and those types of things. Take a quick sip of coffee, if you will. Thank you so much for being a part of this. As you see in the scroll behind at the bottom, if you want to help work on things here, help me find time to do stuff and find money to do better tech. Took a little time. I actually bought some lights and assembled some stuff to this makeshift thing, so it looks a little better than it did last time we tried it from here. Go to buymeacoffee.com/JClevelandPayne, and it's a site for a donation site, just like we moved off of Patreon. We've gone to Buy Me a Coffee because it's a little simpler to use, and you can send us a one-time donation, and then the price of a cup of coffee maybe I can learn how to read too, get some reading lessons or speech lessons. And you can also set up for monthly subscriptions in our coffee clubs. We're setting up different coffee clubs or different venues. It's essentially the big venue for More Better Media all on here. But until we get all built out and kind of working properly, it's right here. So it's J. Cleveland Payne's Buy Me a Coffee page, which is, of course, buymeacoffee.com/J. Cleveland Payne. This is a story that carried over from yesterday. It's in the same spot as yesterday, but with more engagement because it popped up as a very early in the morning thing for yesterday, and just so happened to wind up with enough votes to make it into the talkabouts. And it had, over the course of the dates yesterday, it gathered more as people talked about this. It was a big deal. Falcons trade Julio Jones to Titans in blockbuster deal. Although it's not quite done yet, he still has to pass a physical. There's still paperwork, all this other stuff that happens when these things. But the principals have agreed, and of course, this is something that Ian Rappaport broke the story on, that Julio Jones, who basically said, I want out of Atlanta, which is going to be an issue for the fans in Atlanta, is going to be a Tennessee Titan, which is a good thing for Tennessee, who have a lot of weapons to work with. But now adding a wide receiver like Julio Jones to a force with a running back like Derrick Henry, and these guys couldn't be literally unstoppable this upcoming season if everything falls through. Julio Jones doesn't have any injury issues or serious issues as far as I know of. But this is a thing where at some point in time, even though the fans love you, you may love the city, they are the team that drafted you. Sometimes you get stuck with teams that just don't go anywhere. Sometimes you get stuck with bad management. Sometimes you just get rubbed the wrong way by somebody in the organization. Julio Jones, wanting out of Atlanta, and he is fairly out. We will see once all the ink dries and what happens with this stuff. And sometimes, as we find out in sports, it's not so much the big trade that happens. It's sometimes the trades that don't happen. It's the ones that fall through. This one happens to fall through or something happens. We'll see what happens to Atlanta, whether they are stuck without Julio Jones or stuck with a disgruntled Julio Jones. And the final story that made 8 things today, DOJ seizes millions in ransom paid by Colonial Pipeline. Now, we've been talking for months about the Colonial Pipeline deal since we had the ransom was announced, and then the gas prices went up because people were freaked out and went on a hoarding of gas for a while. They cut the pipeline down for about 3 or 4 actual days. The big issue was not, of course, the Russians had turned off our gas. They just turned off our billing system, and because these things take money, they had to stop pumping gas for a while so they can figure out how to get paid. So they paid the ransom, which was about 63.7 Bitcoin, the value of it, or about $4.4 million, $5 million roughly as a round number. But the DOJ, after the fact, was able to go back and track the Bitcoin. So your blockchain makes something literally official. You can't move it. You can't disguise it. Blockchain means it's there forever. Using blockchain technology, the DOJ was able to actually figure out where that blockchain Bitcoin went to and how to get it back. They were able to seize $2.3 million of the actual costs, about half of what was paid out. They don't have the Bitcoin. Then on the Bitcoin, maybe I'm reading that backwards. Oh yeah, so the Bitcoin equivalent was 63.7 Bitcoins. So I said it backwards. 63.7 Bitcoins, which was about $2.3 million. So they paid more Bitcoin, double that for the ransom. But good news, we're able to recover some from the ransom. Bad news, ransoms are going up like crazy because once you prove something works, everybody gets into it, which, sort of gets to be counterintuitive because once everybody's into it, then, it's not worth getting into. But, everybody's getting into YouTube. I'm trying to do this YouTube thing, and, everyone's already doing it. So there you go. Thank you so much for joining us for the live version of this. If you joined us live, thank you so much for joining us for the future version of this. If you join us within a couple hours of the news, remember, you can go to our website, thisistheconversation.com, click the link for 8 things to talk about in the feeds, and you can see the 8 things to talk about newsletter there. You can subscribe to it so it shows up in your inbox about 6 in the morning every morning there or so. And now brand new sparkly sparkle sparkly, cleaner than clean. It's the brand new listen to the news feature that's at the top of each newsletter, or you can subscribe to it. It's actually a podcast feed. It's an RSS feed. So having some issues finding it in the RSS feeds and getting to update within about 20 minutes to an hour. So because of that, the fastest way to get there is to go to subscribe to the newsletter, click on the link, and play it through your phone, your player. It'll play on your phone. Trust me. You'll play on whatever thing you have, whatever device you have to read your email. You click the link, it will play it through. If you want to support the cast and crew here, click on the link for Buy Me a Coffee to me, buymeacoffee.com/J Cleveland Payne, or visit there when on your own time and buy us a cup of coffee, buy us 2 or 3, buy us a subscription to coffee. That means more coffee in, more work to buy lights, buy cameras, buy people to help type things and get things going here for this project and other more Better Media projects as they come along. You can also buy some of the merch we have listed there for the conversation. A couple things listed there to see as well. And as I get better at doing these descriptions, there'll be more things to click on and more hashtags and things like that going on. This is a brand new thing. We created this podcast. I think there's only 5 issues. The podcast part, I'm only 5 issues of that. And for the talking into the camera part, we've been doing it for about a month, maybe 5 weeks or so. And it's been hit or miss, intermittent based on schedule. I do have a full-time day job, but if you want to buy me lots and lots of coffee, I can back away from that and do this more often. If you think I'm good enough, we're working towards that as well. So, as I say, for the cast and crew behind the Conversation Project, I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, working on pithiness, working on being succinct, and working on getting in, getting out, and getting it done. Telling you goodbye and good luck for the rest of this Tuesday. Make sure you stay hydrated, stay limber, and of course, stay on track. We'll do this again. We'll see how we'll do this again tomorrow.